Welcome to part 2 of arithmetic operations. In this one, we're going to cover a couple quick ones. The first one is something called a unary operation, which is just adding a plus or minus in front of it. We're going to see what that is. Then something that's confusing and most likely you shouldn't use, but we'll talk about it, is called prefix and postfix. All right, so let's get into it and figure things out. So over here, I added three variables, 3, 4, and 5, and we'll see what we do with it. So the first one is if I print out A, and we're just gonna run it quickly, you'll notice it's gonna print out 3. In front of any variable or value, I'm allowed to include a plus or a minus. So I could say minus. And now it would be a minus 3. Could consider it as like a multiplication or something. We could also add a plus, which is not going to give us any value, but is to just specify that it's a positive number. Let's see what would happen if this was negative and we add that little plus over here. That's something interesting. I don't even do that. It doesn't do anything. Okay, good enough. So this is called unary. Basically, you could change you don't do the plus, but normally you do the minus, where you could change the positivity, or you can make a positive number into negative at any time. That could be a value or a variable. It doesn't really matter. Second thing I want to talk to you about is this thing called prefix and postfix. Now, these are some operations onto your B and, well, onto your variables. So normally, if you wanted to, let's say, increase our variable B, you would do something like this. Int B equals B plus 1, right? Oops, I redeclared B. We can't do that. Sorry, I'm not paying attention. So let's run it here. In this case, I'm changing the value of B. I'm assigning the value of B to be whatever the current B is plus 1. So if I print that out, we would get 5, right? Now, some people want to make this a bit simpler on themselves. The incrementing by 1 happens a lot of places. So what they would do is they would just do B plus plus. And this is an operation that was there back in the day to help make this a bit faster, which is basically doing the same thing. B equals B plus 1. Now, you could also do this by doing, let's say, plus plus B, right? So this one is called a postfix, and this one is called a prefix. And in the case of these two right now, they don't do much difference, at least not at our level. At compiler level, they do a big significant difference, but that depends on the language and so on. We're not going to talk about that. However, these two are doing the same thing. So why would we have two different ones other than talking about compiler level? Why do we have these two ones? Well, they were not only made for increasing, they were made for operations. Operations such as, became 6. We could play around with this. So operations such as, let's say I created an int sum, which equals A multiplied B plus C, right? What is my final value? This should be pretty easy. Remember that B over here got changed to 6. Actually, you know what? Let's make it, comment it out so that we got our values. So here it's 3. Here is 4. 3 times 4, 12. 12 plus C, which is 5, 17, right? Pretty straightforward. Oh, I'm not printing sum. See out sum. So 17, pretty straightforward, easy stuff. Again, if I'm going too fast, stop the video, pause it, come back to it. Now, what would happen if I started adding stuff like this? Let's say plus plus, maybe a plus plus, and maybe over here I'll do a minus minus. right? The minus minus works as well. You can only do plus plus or minus minus. And in this case, I hope you pause the video before seeing this value. And we see there's a 20 and it's not a 17. What is going on? And this is where the prefix and postfix comes into play. The prefix and the postfix is talking about the current operation that's happening. The current operation that's happening is this line 12. Inside this line 12, there's a lot of things going on. There's a multiplication and there's a big addition over here. And within that, there is two prefix and postfix, actually three of them, right? In this case, there's two prefixes, which is this one and this one. And there's one postfix, which we're going to put at the bottom, which is this one. Now, pre and post is the key term that you want to kind of take into account. Basically, pre means do it before this operation, before this line, do it before. So let's do it. Do it before. And the postfix, post means do it after the operation. So do it after it's been used. So after I utilize this b inside this formula, that will increase it. So basically here it's saying, before we get the sum, before we get this value, increase a to 4, right? Plus plus, this becomes 4. Decrease c from 5 to 4. And b, we're not going to touch it until we're done with this formula, which is 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 4 is 16. And 16 plus 4, it's 20. And that's why we see 20 here. However, don't forget you need to increase b from 4 and make it to 5 because of this post value. So that's why over here at line 17, when we print out b, we get 5 and not 4. Right? So this is where the prefix and postfix comes in. It's to change the value of the variable after or before the operation is done. Now, the problem with this thing going on line 12, it's extremely ugly code. So if you come to an interview with something like this, in my case, I would automatically put you a fail and I would say, thank you for coming. Please don't come back. Why? Is because you made everyone's life harder for some odd reason. Maybe at some point in the 90s, they had a reason to do this, but there's no point of doing this ever. In some language, that prefix and postfix are just not there because it goes against clean code. Okay? However, you'll see this inside a lot of loops, let's say as an example. We'll get there soon. And if you do want to use it, normally this one, we're not going to go in details, but this one is a bit more compiler friendly. It's a bit faster. Okay, if you use it, fine with me. But again, this is a bit compiler friendly. It's a bit faster. However, do not use it inside of an operation like this. Just do multiple lines. And you're going to say, well, this is really complicated. I'm just going to use it like in one part of it. Even then, don't do it. The problem is we're working teams and sometimes our eyes are reading really fast that we don't see these extra bits, that sometimes we miss these things. And the moment I miss one of these things, I will not figure out what the error is because I'm reading fast and I think the sum is just taking the sum and I'm not looking here, right? It happens. You got to always assume that your colleagues are also kind of stupid. It's not that they're stupid. It's just we get lazy. Let's say whatever the reason is. But the problem is you for putting that in there, okay? You're causing an accident to happen, okay? I can't say that more than I'm saying it now. Don't do it. Cool? Now, while we're at it, there is another one I want to cover over here. Actually, we'll cover it in another video. Thanks, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.